My friends, good day. I've been fighting against eco-scam ideology for years, and today we're seeing the fruits of this mafia-like ideological system that's destroying Western countries. If you look at when there was a war, if you look at any war, for example, when there was the war against Iran, what did the United States strike? They struck Iranian energy facilities. Iran retaliated by striking energy facilities located in the Gulf countries. Energy is the nerve center of every civilization. Look at what's happening today with Cuba. They have an energy blockade. They're in complete darkness. Hospitals don't have systems that allow them to save patients who are in extreme medical distress, including newborns. Once you don't have energy, the country stops. The country goes back to the Middle Ages. Even your food, your fridge will heat up. It'll rot. It'll leak. You won't be able to use your car, heat or cool your home. Medical devices and communications stop. Life returns to the Middle Ages and many die. Energy to keep a civilization running must be available in large quantities and also available cheaply. What's happening is that for a number of years, ideologues have taken over Western countries and have started making energy scarce and expensive. They embarked on ideological pursuits with no future. What is now a crisis forces us. Well, we're all going to suffer together. Let me explain. If you look, for example, I was reading about New Zealand. In 2018, their Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, she banned gas drilling. What happened is that in a very short time, in 2 or 3 years, literally investors started to leave. They stopped new projects, they stopped drilling and exploration. And quite quickly it was cut in half, then cut in half again. So overall, it was down by a factor of 4. Today, we've reached a situation where New Zealand can't get energy. They're importing coal, which they're paying an exorbitant price for. And the current government is trying to dismantle all the laws, the blockages, and the bans from the Jacinda Ardern era to try to recover things and save what they can. Yes, but the thing is, a country isn't a startup. You can't make decisions on Monday to shut things down and then on Friday. For us, that's not possible. It's very complicated. There are investors who have been driven away. There are projects that have moved elsewhere, people who are elsewhere. And now there's a market that demands a risk premium. People invest in New Zealand, but what assures them that after the next election, a new minister won't just ask them to leave before their projects are even profitable? So if they come, they want conditions and payments and all that, which includes the risk premium. United Kingdom, we have the North Sea, and then we decided not to drill in it. So we buy gas, hydrocarbons from the Norwegians, who share the North Sea with the United Kingdom, and they drill. But for us, since drilling is considered illegal in the United Kingdom, you see, it's for purely ideological/religious reasons. The United Kingdom is a climate theocracy. Well, what happens is that they are forced to pay top price for hydrocarbons from the Norwegians. The local companies, they went under, they were sunk by taxes, confiscatory, punitive taxes, which meant that some companies had to pay more than 110% of their profits in taxes. That means they have to work all year, give all their profits, and even borrow money to give to the British government. It was a punitive tax, a tax designed to make them stop. And many did stop, many packed up and decided to leave. And as for gas, they filled them with concrete. They injected concrete inside so that we couldn't extract gas anymore. If you look at Germany, they decided to blow up the nuclear power plants. They decided to literally tear them down. Why? Because if we shut them down, we always think that potentially if a new government comes in, there's a national emergency, all that, we could restart them in a few months. But what we preferred was to blow them up so that if we want to rebuild them, it will easily take 15 or 20 years. And today, with the current situation, I can tell you that the bureaucracy that plagues Europe, I'll give you just one example that's hard to believe, quite astonishing. It's in the United Kingdom, though Germany is close behind. In the United Kingdom, there was a rail line that needed to be built, that needed to be patched up. It's an existing line about 5 kilometers long. It took 79,000 pages of permit application paperwork to do it. That's 119,000 pages for 5 kilometers of rail. So if you want, that's 79,000 pages inside. There are a lot of PDFs that you have to buy from associations, from firms, from consultants. It's going to cost millions, and it's going to block projects for 15 or 20 years just to get it in front of a commission that will demand even more paperwork. So France, same thing. France sabotaged its nuclear sector. It did. It shut down the Fessenheim plant. You see, same thing, energy destruction. Plus, with the European Union, it pegged the price of a product it has in abundance, electricity. It matched its price to gas, a product it doesn't have. It's a bit like if the Saudis were to index the price of oil at the pump in Damamuriad, indexing it, for example, to the price of a bottle of Evian in France. You see, we're indexing a product we have in abundance. We're indexing it to a product we don't have. So if there's a crisis with a product we don't have, that crisis will automatically cascade and affect the product we have in abundance. But we can't use it because there's an artificial crisis imposed on it. So the Belgians, same thing. They also destroyed their own. They destroyed nuclear power plants. So if you look, I sometimes call this, in my writings on astrology, I sometimes call it the I bomb. It means the ideological bomb. If you want to launch a missile, well, that's work. A missile, well, it's expensive, all that. It creates a war. It creates quite a stir on a global level. But you don't have to launch a missile. You can influence people who are very susceptible to ideology, susceptible to guilt tripping, and to corruption as well. Well, you can encourage them to destroy their own energy infrastructure themselves, as if you had launched a missile at it. But you don't need to. The Germans, nobody sent a missile at them. They are the ones who paid for and blew up their own power plants. The British, it's the same. They are the ones destroying their own energy plants. There's no need to fire a missile at them. And afterwards, today, well, what's happening is that if we look at Europe, this path over the past few years, there was the whole story of Russian energy from which they cut themselves off by imposing sanctions against Russia. But in reality, these are sanctions against themselves, against their own people. Afterwards, they started replacing them with hydrocarbons coming from India, which are actually Russian hydrocarbons bought by Indian billionaires and resold to Europe. You should know that in India, there are now weddings costing several $100 million. Some people have made so much money from this oil system, money taken from Europeans, that they don't know what to do with it. They'll spend 400 million just on a wedding. We'll probably even end up having, during this decade, the first billion-dollar wedding. That's where we are now. So what's happening is that they're taking fuel or hydrocarbons from the Middle East as well, but now it's closed. So there you have it. Prices have skyrocketed. And what do they have left? They have American LNG, for which they have to pay for the trip across the Atlantic. So with this system, there's no way to sustain a civilization. Today, as I say in the last sentence of the book, these countries, I read it in the last sentence of the book Astrology, these countries, once powerful, all it will take is a day without wind for them to be defeated. That's the idea. The idea is that we're trying to run a civilization with windmills and solar panels made in China. So that's the situation today. It's time to pay for all that. In Australia, they don't have any more gasoline. They have 500 gas stations that are empty. Every hour that passes, more and more places have less and less fuel. New Zealand is in a similar situation. The United Kingdom is already talking about an energy lockdown. They're talking about creating restrictions. Going back to the COVID era, saying, well, if you have an essential job, you'll have to prove that you have an essential job, and then they'll give you 5 liters of fuel so you can go to work. So they're creating restrictions. And I'll add the last element that really crushes people who can't take it anymore, who are exhausted on every level. It's the fact that we live in predatory societies in the West. For example, you take a news story breaks. The next day, you leave home and notice all prices have increased. I live in Mauritius. It's been almost a year since I left the United Kingdom. Well, the price of gas hasn't changed in the last 6 months. It's exactly the same. The price of fuel is exactly the same as it was 6 months ago, down to the cent. It hasn't changed. That means not all companies in the world are causing things to get worse. Not all companies look at a war in Ukraine and then go double the price of mustard and olive oil, telling you it comes from Ukraine. You remember Dijon mustard that supposedly came from Ukraine? We live in Europe, and that's what makes life very hard for millions of people. The thing is, people are already constantly affected by economic crises that now seem to have become a permanent feature of Europe. We had COVID. After COVID, we had Ukraine. After Ukraine, we had Iran. After Iran, we don't know what we'll have next. But now it's continuous. It's continuous. It doesn't stop. And when we get a little bit of respite, we end up with men making absurd decisions for political purposes, decisions that go against national interests. In the United Kingdom, they announced a fuel tax increase, saying the climate can't wait. Because, okay, yes, there's a crisis, there are all kinds of problems, but can the climate really wait? Well, the climate emergency is here and we're going to have to act. And to take action, we take people who are already struggling and add another tax on top of that. So that's also what makes life very difficult. When you live with people who are constantly at war with you, when you live in a society under capitalist exploitation, under the deregulation of crazy policies issued every day against you to crush you. So after a while, it's true that it's a lot. It's true that this is what makes life very difficult in Europe because it doesn't have to be this way. It's not just that, because be careful, one thing can hide another. When you look at the situation, you say, yes, there's the crisis in Iran, the crisis in Ukraine, but no, it's not just that. These crises are used as smokescreens to take advantage, to speculate at your expense, to create inflation at your expense. So it's both. It's just a pretext. Be careful. Every time there's a crisis, there are all kinds of financial interests that get into position, and then they'll say, yes, but you know, olive oil used to go through Ukraine. So that's how it is. It's absurd. Yes, international crises have a negative effect. Yes, that's true. They have an effect on the economy. They have an inflationary effect, etc. Yes, that's true. But between the effect of the crisis and then using the excuse of the crisis to add more on top, that's something else. And that's what we see, especially in Europe. So now, to finish this video, I'd like to tell you that as much as I criticize politicians, and God knows that in the United Kingdom, we literally have climate ayatollahs today. Really. I'd also like to tell you that the public often asks for it. We have to be honest. I can't just attack these people. For example, in our country, Ed Miliband, who oversees energy and is a total crank, will single-handedly take us back to the Middle Ages. He doesn't need the Middle East war or anything else. He had already promised to return the country to the Middle Ages on his own. For him, the energy consumption from the COVID era, from the time of the lockdowns, even that consumption was very low since businesses and restaurants were closed and people were confined at home. Well, even that level, he considers it too high. We need to go below that. He is, for example, the guy who decided that soon British homes will not be connected to gas. New constructions will not be connected to gas. So, we live on a damp sponge. It's cold all year round. It's 9 degrees at the end of August. If you don't believe me, just check any weather website. They have the weather history. Look up London's temperatures for August 2025, 2024, 2023, whatever you want. You'll see that by the end of August, we already have single-digit temperatures in the morning. We go out with a jacket. Even in July, we've had to turn on the heat. There are thousands of people who die in the United Kingdom, mostly elderly. At least 5,000 people a year die from the cold in their homes. In a class of 30 students, 30 children, at least 10 of them live in poor households, including those in energy poverty, households that can't afford to heat, households where people live with gloves, hats, jackets, or people who skip meals because they can't pay their energy bills. So what do? We're adding even more. It's not enough. That means we want an even higher rate of poverty, insecurity, and distress. You see? But as much as I criticize these politicians, Ed Miliband, in a way, is what many Britons deserve. It has to be said. Because they believe in the narrative, and they themselves say the state isn't doing enough for the climate. The greatest danger threatening us is the climate. Whereas the greatest danger threatening us is actually poverty, famine, and cold. It's being sick and waiting 2 years for surgery only to find out just a week before that your name was removed. And now you'll have to submit the paperwork again and wait another 2 years. If you're still alive in 2 years, maybe they'll operate on you again. That's the risk of living in the United Kingdom. The threat is crime in a country that has closed police stations, that has shut down everything that provided services to the public, that has closed banks, that has closed post offices, that has closed all public services. Today, there is no administration that meets the public. Everything is handled by correspondence. In the UK, to renew your driver's license or after moving, someone must sign your photo to verify your identity. You have to tell a friend or neighbor your whole life story so they can confirm it's really you. Why? Because the administration only works by correspondence. Just so you know, that country is falling apart. They hit Iran, or someone else instead hit a British base in Cyprus. So they decided to send a boat, a ship. It took 3 weeks to get there, asking what's going on. You see, that was a country that had a navy which commanded the oceans of the whole world. Okay? Do you see the real dangers that threatening the United Kingdom? It's still a systemic collapse. Well, they tell you, yes, the danger is the climate. By saying that, they give a license, they give authority, they give a mandate to lunatics like Ed Miliband and others to act and make them even poorer. The population is poor in the United Kingdom. Let's not kid ourselves. Yes, the city is poor. Yes, the city is very rich. Yes, the city is very rich. It moves trillions. But those trillions are not going to trickle down to the population. The British are very poorly paid. Okay? The standard of living in the United Kingdom is very, very low. Today, there are Bulgarians who came 20 years ago who are now going back home because they find they have better economic opportunities there. La, la. Poland is doing much better. It is said that by 2030, Poland will surpass the United Kingdom economically. But I think it has already surpassed it by many objective factors. This country is collapsing, destroying itself, not because of the climate or global warming. But we have a population that says the authorities need to do more for the climate. They are doing more for the climate, okay? That's the problem. Every person who thinks the authorities should do more gives those same authorities a mandate. Well, thank you, my friends, for watching this video so far. There's a massive tropical downpour coming. I'm leaving now. Luckily, I said everything I wanted. And I'll see you in the next video. The book Scrology is available on Amazon. It's even available as an audiobook on Audible. See you very soon. It's violent, I assure you. When it comes down like that, this is nothing. No, it's fine. That one is light. It's light. See you very soon, my friends.